Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, here's Jim Coyle.
Hey, welcome aboard. How are you? Happy Tuesday, and glad to have you with us. Glad to be with you. Jim Coyle here, and I hope your day is starting well. Indiana on the court last night, another good performance. They knocked out another win. Although it started kind of slow, a little scary looking, but man, they finished with a flurry, and we'll be talking about that and plenty more. Mike DeCourcy will be joining us. JD Campbell, of course, in Campbell's corner today. He's got Chuck Crabb, so looking forward to that. Pretty cool seeing the members of the 1976 team, and pretty cool hearing them talk because Bobby oh man, I forget. Someone was talking, one of them, and they were like, oh, they were talking about one of the other teams back in the day and how good that they were talking about Arizona, the current Arizona, and because they were undefeated until a little later. So I wonder if they put the kibosh on Arizona. Kind of funny, isn't it? Ironic that this year's team that looked like they were going to try to make a run at that gets beat on the night that the 76 team was being celebrated and for the 50th anniversary. Kind of funny, really, to think about it. But it was, I enjoyed getting to hear guys like Bobby Wilkerson. Well, it wasn't him. It was the guys talking about him. He was a badass, man. He was a bad man. And you can still tell that the competitor is still in them. So that was pretty cool. Hope everybody's doing well. You bet, Fred. Got lots more videos. It was cool. But yeah, like I said, I'm trying to get that so we can hear some of that today. But yeah, I enjoyed it greatly, and it was. But yeah, that's what struck me. Still, some of those guys, they were talking about. Oh yeah, they're talking about that Arizona team, like I said. And it was like, but they couldn't beat this team, so they couldn't hold a candle. I mean, they were serious. That's what I loved, and a lot of them said, "Well, who was the hardest team you played against?" Our second team. That was kind of funny, but man, maybe the greatest team of all time. Seriously, they were talented, and it was Bob Knight at his zenith. Early in his career, though, he arrived at Indiana in 1971, and Pat Knight was there last night for his dad. Great to see him there. He enjoyed what was a big part of the festivities, but it was really cool to see him, and it was really cool to see how they honored them at the half. They had them all. They announced them like off of the bench again, which was I thought to be pretty cool. And I don't know what they gave them. I wish I would have went over and just asked one of them, but they gave them something. I don't know if it could have been a ring. I don't know what it was, but yeah. And then the Indiana team put on a good show last night. after a little bit of a wonky first half. They came alive, but you can say they all you want, but damn, Lamar Wilkerson, dude just lit it up. But the funny thing is, I saw last night was just a big night. Eric Crawford from WDRB, they cover IU a ton, but out of Louisville, I saw him post that Mikael Brown ties Wes Unseld's scoring record for Louisville with 45 points last night. So, man, it was a high-flying scoring night last night for both of those programs that are so close to each other. Just ironic that you have two guys to go off like that, but 41 points. That's the second time he's had 40 points this season. I think the only other person to do that for Indiana was daggone it. Why am I always name slipping? The greatest player to ever play for Indiana, truly. In the early 70s, right before Bob Knight. You'll pull it up for me. I mean, you'll hit it in a second. But 92-74 was the final score last night. And yeah, I'm going to be sitting here driving myself crazy thinking of that name that is just slipping my mind right now. But 13 of 20. Oh, yeah, where's my note that I wrote down? Because the starters. Oh, yeah. But he was 13 of 20. That's 65% from the field. From shooting. And he shot 12. He attempted 12 three-pointers, people, out of those 20. So 8 were not three-point shots, but regardless of that, 65% from the field. 65. George McGinnis, thank you. Kentucky Hoosier, thank you, John. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Brian, Justin. Yeah, you guys all got it. Thank you very much. Gosh, I loved him. Man, that dude. Whoo. Golly. But stop and think about the talent. Literally. Talent that was at Indiana from 1970 just through that decade. The talent that was in Bloomington. And yes, you count Larry Bird because he was there. You had George McGinnis. If he had stayed and played for Bob Knight, oh my gosh. That's funny to think of. I'll talk about that with Mike DeCourcy when he joins us. I just love to think about just how incredible that could have been. The meeting of those minds. I mean, wow. Yep. The Benson and Bird thing is, I believe it's probably true. And well, it is true, I probably shouldn't say that, but I'll hold on to this one. There's another one that, if you stop and think about it, well, I'm going to skip that. Not going to do that one right now. But last night, the starters for Indiana, and that's where they got everything from. Their starters. That's one knock, I guess, as to why this team is good, but they It's going to be. That's why they have to fight so hard in games. They don't have support. Last night it was a 13-0 bench points. Everything comes from the starters. Of course, when you get Lamar Wilkerson, but you have Lamar Wilkerson going off for 41 points, but still had 3 other starters in double figures. First of all, Sam Alexis, who goes 8 for 8 for 16 points. That is a night's work, and that is what will help this team win in March. If you can get that out of him, that's on a night where Lamar Wilkerson had 41 points. Sam Alexis goes 8 for 8 from the field. Woo! And that's in just 25 minutes. Connor Enright has been the anchor for that team. I mean, he has done some great things. We'll talk more about that. Mike DeCourcy is going to join us next. Happy Tuesday. Appreciate you being with us. Don't forget, Dave & Buster's Bloomington is the place to eat, drink, play, and watch. Enjoy half-price games Sunday through Thursday and a new menu and next-level upgrades like private game suites and the high-flying human crane only at Dave & Buster's Bloomington on South College Mall Road. We're back with more and with Mike DeCourcy, more importantly, right after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage, and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Bored, Bloomington? Dave & Buster's can fix that. Eat and drink your way through our all-new menu. Play half-price games every Sunday through Thursday. Watch all your team's wins on a 40-foot screen and 30 HD TVs. And level it up with the high-flying human crane that puts you in the game. Private game suites, our exclusive arena, and more. Only at Dave & Buster's on 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you on this Tuesday, joined as always by the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and the Big Ten Network. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Jim. How are you?
I'm not going to lie. Boy, it was a late night last night, going to Indiana, taking on the Oregon Ducks, and that first half they looked a little wonky, but boy, oh my gosh, I don't know what Darren DeVries sprinkled on them in that locker room at halftime, but gee whiz, Mike, they shot 81% from the field in the second half, 81%, 63% from 3. I'm like, okay, you're not beating that team. Anybody is not beating that team on that night. But yeah, boy, Mike, if they could carry that forward, they would be a dangerous team in the NCAA tournament, especially if they could get, a little bench help. Everything's coming from the starters. It was a 13-0 bench points last night, which they didn't need it on a night where LeVar Wilkerson's going off for 41, and you have 3 other players in double figures. So normally when you got a guy that's scoring that much, there's not that many points elsewhere. But and ironic, Mike, on a night where Mikel Brown for Louisville goes for 45 to tie Wes Unseld's Louisville scoring record. So just a big night. And you add in Lamar does this on the night where they're celebrating the 76 team, which that was cool. I wish you had been there for that, because you would have enjoyed the hell out of that. Before, when we got to speak to him, I could still feel the competitive juices from them. I'm not kidding. When they were talking about Arizona last night and how good no, it wasn't Abernathy, but it was Tom Abernathy. He was kind of saying that, hey man, if Arizona does it, oh well, great, we can hand this off. And I don't know that anybody else shared that view. Even I don't think anybody else on the stage shared that view. But it was funny. And then they would lose last night again. Right. So a lot of irony going on. They lost to Kansas, a good Kansas team, but just a lot going on last night, Mike.
Yeah, I never thought that Arizona was going undefeated this year. They're terrific.
It's just too hard. It's too hard. I don't care.
It's really hard, but you have to be like when Kentucky had their 2015 team, there was a legitimate chance that they could carry that ball all the way to the end. And if they had slightly better point guard play, they could have. That was the deficiency in that team. Quinn Buckner's point guard, even at 45 or 50 or whatever he would have been in 2015, maybe he would have been about 55. I think he could have got him home if he was playing there. But
kind of like Peyton Manning with the Denver Broncos.
Yes, sort of. But we learned yesterday that even though Quinn exhausted his eligibility at IU, there's no avenue back because he played in the league with Charles Bediako.
Oh, that's right. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But Arizona's really good, but they don't have the overwhelming talent to take it through every single team and win every game, especially in the Big 12, where you had to go to Kansas. You still have Houston. You still have some really difficult games down the stretch. I never believed for a second they were going undefeated in the regular season. So it was an interesting coincidence, but it was going to happen at some point. And the fact that Kansas was able to pull it off without Darren Peterson playing.
That's shocking right there. When I found that out, I was like, what?
Yeah. Apparently he got some sort of illness. They called it flu-like symptoms.
Yeah.
And so he didn't play. It's frustrating, I'm sure, for Kansas fans, but a lot less frustrating when you get to the end of that and you got more points than the Wildcats.
That's all that matters. Yeah. And but college basketball this year, I'm thinking about that. I'm salivating about Michigan and Arizona or Illinois, and I'm like, wow, there's some really good teams. And then you're going to see some really good upsets. Like I said, this Indiana team, that's what I could see them doing.
Yes.
I don't see them having a big run, but I see them being somebody can whoop somebody, because if they have a night like this, because we've seen them get hot like this, and the starters, Mike, just the starters, shot 61% from the field.
Right.
45% from three, 86% from the free throw line. And that was a lot. So when you get that, and Nick Dorn, who had kind of Tucker DeVries had gotten out of his little funk, but then Nick Dorn fell into one and was not scoring. And then he put in 11 points last night. So get him back off the schneid. But it showed that they can be. I have no doubts now that they're going to make the NCAA tournament. I think they can par out. I keep saying that because if you lose to Michigan State, if you lose to Illinois, and if you lose at Purdue, that's not going to hurt you. That last game at Ohio State is a little, and this is, Mike, this happens a lot. I think they play them at the end of the year pretty regularly because it seemed like, well, it's Groundhog Day. Here we go again with Indiana playing Ohio State. And it was a couple years ago, it was actually in the tournament. But that game right there, I don't know that it would knock him out, but it to me, it's a seed. That's a seed game for Indiana. They will, if they win it, because they would have probably bumped up to maybe a 9, possibly. And if they beat Ohio State at Ohio State, I think they hold that. If they lose it, I think they go to a 10 or 11.
Yeah, the ascent to ascend at this point, I had them because of the Wisconsin win. I pulled them out of a first 4 game, a play-in game, whatever. I know some people want to call it that. And it's especially convenient to call it a play-in game at this point because you have the first 4 out, next 4 out. And if you say first 4, people don't think Dayton, they think you're out. So that's why we call it a play-in game in the bracket when we're talking brackets, and then we can turn it to the first 4 when we have an actual tournament. So I had them in the play-in game in my Friday bracket, but after the Wisconsin game and with some of the other machinations that happened toward the back of the field, I will raise them to a 10 in the bracket that's released this morning. And the problem that they have now, Jim, is this stretch of games coming up, 3 out of 4. I believe it's at Purdue, at Illinois, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, at Illinois is
first, at Illinois first, then at Purdue, and then Northwestern, and then they have Michigan State at home. So that's 3 out of 4 against top 3 seeds in the NCAA tournament. That's a really difficult stretch for them. It's not so much a difficult, like, okay, they're going to be really worn out by the time they get to the end. Oh, that's not the problem. The problem is, can you get one? You got to take care of Northwestern, but can you get one of those? If you can pick off one, I think at that point, getting in, it becomes almost not a question. If you can pick off one of them.
I think Michigan State, Ohio State. That's probably.
No, I'm not talking. I mean, in that stretch. So you would say beat Michigan State at home, and then I still think they'd get in if they lost the Ohio State game.
Me too.
But they now if they don't get one of the 3 big heavyweights that's coming up, then it increases the pressure on the Ohio State visit. Again, I still don't know if that's existential. It so much depends on what everybody else in your neighborhood does.
Plus, their metrics are so good right now. They're out of this world.
The predictive metrics are, and they will be a tiebreaker. But the first one that's important is the resume metric. That gets you in more often than not lately. That's the most important. And right now, that says they're a 10 ballpark. It says
3
they're
quad 1 wins.
Quad 1 wins. The 1 and 2 record is a problem for them, Jim. And it's not.
Are you talking about in quad 1 games?
No, I'm talking about the quad 1 and 2 combined.
Oh,
they're 4-8 in quad 1 and 2 combined. That's the worst. Like I looked at everybody that was on the out list last week, and they're worse than 7 of the 8 on the out list in 1 and 2 combined. And when you're talking about trying to get in, 1 and 2 combined is a very important number. It's maybe the most important number. And so that's a problem. But like I said, if you could just get one more win in that stretch, and then, of course, if you get the Ohio State deal as well, at that point, you'd have 6. You'd have 6 1 and 2 combined wins. Plus, you'd have both those would also be quad 1 wins. So you would improve both of those numbers at the same time. That would be very important for them.
Yeah, as Brian points out, I think back to that Minnesota loss at Minnesota. That's the only, quote, bad, unquote, loss they have, I think.
Even that doesn't qualify as a bad loss. First of all, other teams have lost up there. And second of all,
they beat Michigan State.
Yeah, exactly my point. And second
I think they have 3 quad 1 wins, Mike.
Yeah, they have Indiana, and this is one of the stronger points of their resume. Indiana has no losses in quads 3 and 4. And a lot of the teams that they would be competing with for entry have some marks in those 2 quadrants. And so that really helps them a lot as well. And just it's sort of just the quality of teams that we're looking at that are either on the 11 line now, or particularly the ones that are on the out lists. I mean, it's just not there, Jim. I mean, that's why it still makes my head explode that they're talking about expanding the tournament. Really? So what? So you can get Ohio State in with 0 quad 1 wins? So you can get California in that just lost by 20 on their home floor to Clemson? Not to Duke, not to Carolina, which has a Caleb Wilson who's going to be the 4th pick in the draft or whatever, but to Clemson. Clemson's a good, solid team. But should they come into your gym, if you're a tournament team, Jim, and wipe you by 20? I mean, that's really bad. But that's what they're trying to get in the field. I mean, Indiana at least can say, oh, yeah, we went to UCLA, won. We beat Purdue on our floor. We beat Wisconsin on our floor. We were competitive with Kentucky, et cetera.
Should have beat Nebraska, to be honest with you.
Could have beat Nebraska, no question. I mean, all of that, they can say. These other teams can't, and that's why I have them in. It's why I have, even though, like I said, that 4-8 number is scary for an Indiana fan. But I still think that if you are able to get one of the 3 heavyweights in the next 4 games and close out with that road win at Ohio State, at that point, I don't think you have any issues at all about being entered in the field.
Yeah, the next 2 games are going to be very tough at Illinois and at Purdue, without question. Illinois right now, they're one of the best teams in the country. I mean, they are just tough and getting tougher. They're doing what you're supposed to do. They're getting better at the right time.
And they're doing it without one of their most important players, Kylan Boswell, who is a secondary point guard for them, their primary shooting guard, their best defensive guard, and they're continuing to improve without him available. He has a hand issue. It's been about a month, so he should be probably getting ready to return soon. And they will have to obviously reintroduce him to the team, and there have been instances where that's been a challenge, not for necessarily Illinois, but just in general in college basketball. When a player comes back and the team is rolling, sometimes it's a little bumpy, but it's a fantastic team. When Tomislav Ivicic started making threes on a regular basis, they became really difficult to defend because he's a guy that a lot of defenses had been trained to not worry about, especially in the pick and roll. Make sure that you control whoever the point guard is. Before it was Boswell, and now it's Keaton Wagler, who's even better in that circumstance. And not worry about the roll, but if he pops, maybe him shooting it isn't so bad. And now it's a weapon for Illinois, and it's a real problem for everybody that plays against them. They have become really deep. They still shoot probably more threes than they need to, based on the physical power that they have and the ability to get the ball to the lane that they have. But it's a really hard team to play.
Yeah, and that's another thing. The word hard. They play hard.
Yes.
All game, every game, and that's fun to watch. And Connor Enright, you want to have some fun, people? Just watch Connor Enright. He gets switched off on these 6'9", 6'10" guys all the time, and I'm like, that's where y'all got to stop. I mean, that they get in trouble there because it happens a lot. But he's a little bulldog. I mean, it's like he's just bites a hold of their shorts and just hangs on. But his stat lines that he's been putting up, because he's been forced into handling the ball a lot more because of Connerway's really, boy, he's missed a lot of time. But what Enright has done has just been amazing to watch. Last night, what was it? He didn't score. Well, I'm in the half. Never mind.
He had 5 points.
5 points, but it's the 6 rebounds, 8 assists,
Right.
1 turnover. I guarantee you,
36 minutes, Jim. 36 minutes, 1 turnover. Night before,
and go back and look at his last. Yeah,
39 minutes in the overtime, so he played all but 6 minutes and 0 turnovers.
It's amazing. I mean, and Indiana as a team is not turning the ball over, but he's like a little bulldog, and sometimes he's been scoring in double figures during this period when Nick Dorn and Tucker DeVries were struggling. But he has been we'll talk about, use the term glue guy. He has been their glue guy during this period because he has really elevated his play, and it's really been a shot to this team. And then last night, Sam Alexis, on a night where Lamar Wilkerson goes off for 41 points, Alexis is 8 for 8 from the field. 8 for 8. I'm like, damn. But so, Indiana just lit it up in the second half. And I don't know what something changed at halftime. And I don't know what that was, but I didn't like their shot selection in the first half. They were I don't think they were very definitive about what they were doing. And that happens a lot. And that leads to the rebounding issues that they face and all of that. But last night, they pretty much led in every category, including rebounding, which is a switch, and in defensive rebounds, 24-17. They still got out rebounded on the offensive end. And second chance points. No, second chance points, 14-4.
You do have to remember, Jim, when you shoot 60%, you're not going to get a lot of offensive rebounds because you're not making a lot of offensive rebounds.
Oh, there's true that.
I mean,
everything was going in.
That's why you want to go to percentages, because only 20 shots came off their boards. Now, 5 out of 20 is not great, but 8 out of 20, actually 31, 8 out of 31 is worse. So they actually did a pretty good job on the boards last night.
Yeah, and another number that is always high is their assist number. 22 assists on 30 made baskets.
Right.
Again, that's just and that's kind of a game in type of thing with this team. So, and I don't know if when they get Conaway fully back, if they're going to be better or not, to be honest with you.
Because here's where he makes them better. I don't care about bench scoring at all. Like that's to me, that's a stat that matters not in the least. If I wanted to win bench scoring, I'd start Michael Jordan on the bench every day. What does it mean? But and Ken Palm charts this for a reason. Bench minutes. Can you play your guys that aren't starters and play them? And even if they're getting rebounds or they're getting assists or they're shutting down the opposition or whatever it might be that they're good at, you need them to be good at, and just so that you can rest the other guys. That is the primary function of a reserve player. Allow the starters to rest while either keeping the collective at the same standard, or perhaps because you might have a special skill. Maybe you're a great 3-point shooter, something like that, elevating it for the stretches you're in the game. That's what being on the bench and being functional is. It would be nice, for instance, if they could get Trent Sisley to get a little bit more time, and I don't think that's going to happen in your next 4 games, because you have 3, like we said, monster games, and then 1 which is a non-negotiable. You have to win it. You have to beat Northwestern. Even if you get one of these 3 heavyweights, you still have to beat Northwestern. So I don't know that it's a time where you can experiment much. So the elevation of their bench minutes is likely to come from Conaway returning to full activity. That's where they can get that. And so that's how he makes them better, even if he doesn't play elite basketball. And he has played some good basketball when he's been available. If he returns to being as functional as he was in January, say, I think he makes them better in that circumstance.
Absolutely, and they need that. They're a team that is a core-driven team. I mean, it's mainly been the starters even when Conaway was healthy, but that and now Bailey has been moved to the bench,
right?
Which it is nice to be able to bring him in, but he seems to be a player that needs to play more to get going. He does it. I don't know how effective he is off the bench, but like you said, minutes just resting. And if you're not, as long as you're not losing ground, that's what you want.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when you look at what Sam Alexis did the last couple games, I think he makes them physically tougher. He's not a shot blocker, so you do lose some rim protection when you put Reed on the bench. But you do gain a significant amount of toughness, and you're gaining a massive amount of efficiency. I mean, when your center is going 8 for 8 from the field against a guy in Nate Biddle who's a reasonable shot blocker, you didn't do that against the Sands Biddle Oregon, which a lot of teams played in the Big Ten this year. You played them about as close to full strength as they're going to be this year. And he goes 8 for 8. And against Wisconsin, you're playing against their regular bigs the whole game, and he goes 9 for 10. Even the USC loss. I mean, the guy has only missed one shot in the last 5 games. So why would you bench that? I mean, one shot in the last 5 games. He has really been productive, and he's really been – I don't love the word efficient in basketball. I think it's overrated, but not for a big who's – basically just trying to own his spot, own the lane. He's not a guy that you're going to send out behind the 3-point line to take a bunch of shots. You want the guy to own his space in the lane. And over that 5 games, which has been by far the 5 best games, the best 5-game stretch that Indiana has played this year, he's been really effective and really powerful, and a major factor in why they've been able to be as successful as they've been.
It has been fun to watch. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and the Big Ten Network with me as usual here on this Tuesday. Let's take a break. We've got lots more to talk about. Bediako, the eligibility case goes to the judge. Kansas without Darren Peterson has a night. Much more coming up on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with more right after these messages.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Dave & Buster's Bloomington is the place to eat, drink, play, and watch. Enjoy half-price games every Sunday through Thursday, a new menu to dig into, and next-level upgrades like private game suites, the high-flying human crane that puts you in the game, our exclusive arena, and more. Only at Dave & Buster's Bloomington, 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Jim Coyle with you as always. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and the Big Ten Network with me as well. Man, a lot going on in college basketball, Mike. The AP poll out, the undefeated Arizona Wildcats until last night. They take the L for the first time by Kansas without Darren Peterson. I don't know how they managed to do that, but wow, that makes Kansas sound like a very scary team.
Kansas is very good. I think the problem that they have is that they are a different team with and without Peterson. And having to constantly go back and forth between those two is a real challenge. And so if they're going to advance in March, they need to be one or the other, whichever it is. And if they don't have Darren Peterson in March, then they aren't talented enough to win the championship. If they do, then they are. And so that's a big difference. If they don't have him, they're good enough to win just about every game they play, short of the last couple. But they obviously would be less talented than a lot of teams that they would be playing in the deeper parts of the bracket when they get to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and certainly at the Final Four level. If he's playing, they're talented enough to beat everybody. I mean, he is that good. It's been a shame and really frustrating, and I'm sure he's probably frustrated as well with everything that's come up from the hamstring to the cramping and now the illness that he had last night. Oh, and I forgot the ankle that he turned by stepping on someone out at Colorado. So he's had something almost every couple of weeks, and it's been problematic. But what's most glaring, I think, for him and for Kansas is that every time they get a big game, like one of those showcase games, I wrote a column about the meeting with Darren Peterson a couple of Saturdays ago. With the meeting with AJ DeBonsa a couple of Saturdays ago, and how big that was. He played half the game and then sat the rest. And it's just odd. And then you have Arizona, number one team in the country, on your home floor, and everybody's watching. The Super Bowl's over, and then you're not there. And so it's the funniest thing about it is that those who think he's protecting his NBA draft stock don't understand that if indeed there is a concern about his NBA draft stock, these absences are the only thing that can impact it. These absences are the one thing that can make people think, well, wait a second, if I'm the Pacers and I got one, let's say they get lucky enough to win the one pick. Do I want AJ DeBonsa, who the aura is, you can wake him up at 3:00 in the morning, toss him a ball and say, let's go hoop. And he'll be like out there out of the bed in a flash and out dunking. Or Darren, who you say, hey, Monday night, we got the biggest game of the year. And then he's not there because in warmups, he didn't feel right. I'm not saying that he wasn't ill last night. Right. But that's the only thing that could disrupt him being the number one overall pick, is that concern about, well, if he can't handle a 35-game college basketball season, how is he going to handle 100+ games if we go through exhibitions, regular season, and then we have a run in the NBA playoffs to the finals? How's he going to handle that? Because it's an unbelievably taxing thing. I mean, people mock NBA players for load management and stuff like that. Go ahead and try to play 100 games at that level. Give it a shot. See how you do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, because you're going to have to, and that's going to be the expectation. And as you have said and pointed out, that's being viewed by guys, and they see that, and the reasons they're kind of odd, because it's just an odd situation. So we'll see if he gets through that. A Duke staffer was trampled in the UNC win. I'm not sure if that'll ring any bells, because every time something like that happens, we hear something. I know that North Carolina did get fined for that, but I mean, what are you going to do? And you got these students, you hit a 3-point shot like that, that's got it's going to happen. So what, how do you, when you're the other, I think when you're the other team, you're in a situation to just expect that and stay on the freaking sidelines. All I can say.
It's hard. It's hard to get off the floor, and I've been to the Dean Dome a lot of times. I'm not sure where the visiting team exits and how easy it is to get there because I've never really paid that much attention to that. But it's hard to get off the floor. I just think that the expectation now that you're supposed to rush the floor is such that it's one of those things, like it's all about TikTok and Instagram and all of that, and trying to, make sure that you get your selfie while you're on the floor in the middle of all that. And I don't find anything. I get when I complain about it on Twitter, I get accused of being no fun or saying that the kids shouldn't have any fun. And
yelling at the moon.
I mean, I was 20 once. It's been a while, but I was 20, and I had a lot of fun watching teams win from the stands. I had a lot of fun. I didn't need to be on the floor in order to have fun. Somehow I managed to have fun. And even at my advanced age, when I go to a game as a fan, a hockey game or a soccer game or whatever it might be, and I'm paying customer, I enjoy myself if my team wins in the stands. I don't need to be on the field of play to do that. We don't have it in the NFL. We don't have it in the NBA. We don't have it in any other sport on a regular basis other than college basketball. I think college basketball is plenty exciting. Hey, Kansas took down undefeated Arizona on their floor last night. You think those kids in the end zone at Allen Fieldhouse, the people at Fog, you think they really didn't have fun last night? They looked like they were having a ton of fun to me. How about you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just gotten to be in vogue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so that definitely needs to change. Let's see. A lot of other things going on in college basketball, especially with Indiana. They announced last night that a statue of Bob Knight will be built or erected out in the South Lobby, which brought a loud, rousing vote of approval from all those in attendance.
Yeah, I think it's something that is well deserved. I wish they had been able to come to an agreement to do that when he was still with us. Although my understanding is he wasn't all that much in favor of that concept.
No,
and that's why
there's not.
Yes. But
that is a fact that's why there is not. That's why there is a current statue with of the 76 team of a group of them. And he's not in that for that reason.
I think it's something that'll be great to have. He was one of the greats and a legend. And I had some conversations with him that were fascinating. Well before he passed, it's just a fascinating individual, frustrating individual at times as well, but really a brilliant guy and a tremendous coach and someone whose legacy will always stand over the Indiana program. You don't want it to be oppressive. And I think we've gotten to the point now where you don't necessarily have to live up to Bob Knight. You just have to get Indiana back to being Indiana. And they are on the way to that, quite obviously. It happened across the campus, so to speak, in football. You got your national championship there, and Indiana basketball is on its way back. There have been a few false starts along the way, but I do believe that you're seeing now that Darren DeVries is a terrific coach, and that his style of basketball can win a lot of games in the Big Ten once he gets a few more guys who are high-level Big Ten players.
Got about 4 minutes left. Charles Bediako's eligibility case was decided by a judge yesterday, and he is not eligible. I was a little surprised that Alabama played him right before that, but that is a win for the NCAA.
Yes.
And that's huge for them, Mike.
They're on a 1-game winning streak. And it's their first win in a while. I think that what they established was that it's not about whether you've been a professional to some degree, but it's about whether or not you basically you rejected the remaining eligibility. The college. See, one of the reasons why I wasn't really wired up about this particular case was that I never have appreciated that rule, that you file for the draft, you stay in the draft, and you're saying, goodbye to college basketball or football. I've never liked that rule.
I agree.
I think if you go and it doesn't work out for you and you have remaining eligibility within your clock and you haven't played in the league, I don't see a problem with guys coming back. But I do like the fact that they were able to have a rule that stood up in the court of law. That's important because there are certain rules that should stand up, and one of them is for instance, the idea that junior college competition should count. NAIA competition should count. It shouldn't be like if you're not into the NCAA and you play college sports, well, that doesn't count. And that whole Pavia thing to me was a joke. As I've said before, if I had an All-America vote, and I don't, I wouldn't have voted for him. If I had a Heisman vote, and I don't any longer, I wouldn't have voted for him. He should not have been on the field in college football in 2025, not for any other reason than he played plenty of college football between his junior college, New Mexico State, and his first year at Vanderbilt. He had reached his limit, and he shouldn't have played in 2025. And I think that's a rule that I hope, because Pavia just got an injunction and he didn't have to necessarily go any farther than that in order to play. And the NCAA then said, okay, for this time, we're going to let it happen because we have to have a uniformity. We can't just have Pavia be the only guy that gets benefited by that. So we're going to let it pass this year. But that's a rule that maybe can be defended in court now using this ruling from the Bediako case as a precedent. And so that's important, that they got to win in court to follow through on some of the established eligibility rules. The 5-year window with some exception for excessive injury. Those sorts of things should be helpful to the NCAA, because the one thing that they need to be able to establish more than anything is who can play. They're not going to be able to do much with the money thing and all that. Transferring is still a tricky one for them to deal with, but who can play, there should be able to establish some parameters around that.
I agree. And to have a benchmark, and hopefully this is the start of that, because that had been the problem. There was just no benchmark that they could sit on.
Right.
So hopefully that does alleviate that issue, because things have to start moving in a positive direction to just shore this up, because it's so good right now. Basketball and football are so freaking stinking good. So it's got to let's put the the rails where they need to be and keep it going. Don't screw it up.
Right.
That's the thing. Don't screw it up. Mike, as always, appreciate you, brother. I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Jim. I will be on Big Ten, or Big Live, we call it, on the Big Ten Network at noon today, talking about my brackets and some big games in the Big Ten. Looking forward to that with my partners, Rafael Davis and Dave Revson. My Fox bracket will be out today at CBB on Fox, on the social sites, Twitter, Instagram, etc. And I'll have a piece later on in the week about this astounding freshman class at sportingnews.com. So a lot to look forward to this week.
Make sure you're keeping up with all of that and following Mike DeCourcy. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
You betcha. Back with Chuck Crabb in Campbell's Corner after these messages.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Dave & Buster's Bloomington is the place to eat, drink, play, and watch. Enjoy half-price games every Sunday through Thursday, a new menu to dig into, and next-level upgrades like private game suites, the high-flying human crane that puts you in the game, our exclusive arena, and more. Only at Dave & Buster's Bloomington, 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Glad to have you along. And welcome aboard, J.D. Campbell in Campbell's Corner, as always, as a special guest. Today, it's Chuck Crabb, a familiar voice to thousands of Hoosier fans. Chuck, how are you, sir? Thank you so much for joining. It's good to see you. It's been a while.
Well, Jim, it's great seeing you. This is kind of a triple C presentation here, isn't it?
Triple
Coyle,
threat,
Crabb,
baby. The
and
triple
Campbell.
threat. I usually try to step aside and just let JD take over and do what he does, which is so well. But it's just great to see you and great to hear that voice.
Well, it's still going strong down this way. You're talking with the PA voice for Florida Southwestern Buccaneers, a junior college program, the same division as Vincennes, and also nationally ranked, the Buccaneers. And then also I've picked up the opportunity of doing Venice High School, which is about 10 miles away, doing their girls volleyball during the fall, and then during the winter boys basketball. Can't sit still.
Do they have any idea that the guy that is doing the PA for them has called, or however you want to say, some of the most important sports teams in the history of sports, much less just big time. I mean, it's that's just like having Michael Jordan come in and be your coach, your basketball coach in 7th grade.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I work for a gentleman, Roy Allen, at FSW. JD might be familiar with him through the Communication Sports Society. And when I first called him 4 years ago after situating here in Englewood, Florida, I said, I'm available and would certainly like to talk to you. And he said, is this really Chuck Crabb? I mean, I know who you are, but I also know your reputation. And why would somebody who has done NCAA, Olympic announcing, Big Ten announcing, and 45 years of announcing in Assembly Hall, why would you want to come and be before my 150 people every basketball game? And I'm like, hey, I don't fish. I don't play golf. I am fairly proficient with a microphone, and I'm not going to be a cheerleader. I'll just bring you the same approach I used those 45 years in Assembly Hall. And he's like, sure, come on, drive on down. We're ready for you. And so I'm finishing my 4th year with them and have had 3 years with Venice. And it's just a lot of fun because it gets me out in the community. And somehow I was blessed over all those years. Red Grow, Warren McGuire, Marty Clark, Rusty Stillions, Jay
Marty.
Sears, and
Love
all of
Marty.
them. Why?
Great guy.
I'm like JD. I've got the greatest supply of Adidas red crimson wear that I ever need. Yes, certainly. The three stripe is right close to my heart. And so I get a lot of comment out in the when I go shopping, when I go to the YMCA to work out. And of course, it's just grown exponentially this year, as you offered earlier, Jim, in your comments about football and the success. And, I celebrated that from afar and was in my den for all of those games, glued to the TV. And I think I had the Varsity Network on my cell phone so I could hear Fish and Buck and, just trying to follow along and great pride from this alumnus for what Coach Signetti accomplished.
JD, you should get Chuck a tackle box, like a fishing tackle box, so he could carry his microphone in the tackle box. So he doesn't fish, but he could. That's his deal.
Chuck, I want to show you this book.
Oh yes,
this I think
many memories.
Yes, it's a piece of memorabilia that I believe I may have inherited from you at some point.
Yeah.
Jim, when I came in 2007, I said there were 4 people that I really valued and try to learn the history and the ins and outs of the Indiana athletic program. And Chuck and Kit and Garl and Dr. Rink were invaluable for me. But my favorite thing about Chuck is the relationship. And again, we had to work hand in hand. But a lot of people don't realize that Chuck was the guy that the TV networks had to work with, not only to set up, which included getting the doors open at 3, 4, 5 in the morning on game day. And, but also he held a unique role that I don't know if anybody else in the country ever held. Not only did he do PA, but he was what's called the timeout coordinator. So he's got the TV truck in his ear and he's got to coordinate the timeouts. And of course, you and I have some very fond memories of some of our mutual friends, like Mr. Steve Shear, who would try to stretch out the commercial break. As much as he could. And first of all, just seeing you again, I just want to thank you for everything that you did for me during my 16 years there, and know that I really thought that we worked very well together.
Yes.
And it was a treasure to be able to just learn and watch. And there's so many things that you had your hand in over the years. But you were a student from Brazil, graduated in 1973, graduated with a degree in journalism. So you were really there for the front lines of what I consider to be the defining era of Indiana basketball that still resonates today, starting in 73 and culminating with the group that was honored last night.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. My undergraduate time at IU, 1969 to 73, was when Assembly Hall was being built. There was a major capital campaign the university had in the late 1960s. And they built 3 major projects. They did the Assembly Hall, they did the Musical Arts Center, and they did various other building projects throughout the IU system as it came to be known with John Ryan's development of the regional campus concept. And so I got to see the last 2 years of construction of Assembly Hall. I'm kind of the answer to that trivia question. who was the person who stepped in as student assistant in IU athletic publicity, as it was called then, when Kit Klingelhofer became full-time in the fall of 1970. And you're looking at him. I came right on Kit's heels and worked with him we worked together all of the time that he was there until his retirement. And with that, I became, instead of a gym rat, JD, I became the person going in through the back hallway that connected the field house with the planned and under construction assembly hall. I learned how to get over plywood barriers and under scaffolding and around, and still remember going in. That was for one of my journalism classes, J210, with Will Counts, the late Will Counts. It was a photography class. So I took a Rolex camera in and actually did time exposures when the roof was still open in Assembly Hall. And don't think that didn't score some points for me with Will Counts. He's like, son, how'd you get in there? And I'm like, I'm very resourceful. But, I have a lot of memories of that construction period. And then when the building did open, it was a variety show for homecoming 1971 with Bob Hope and Petula Clark. And, a grand celebration of a building that had been planned in the 1950s and delayed because of a bond. Indiana had the plans to build a whole new athletic complex, a very aggressive building project in 1957 of the field house, Memorial Stadium, Assembly Hall, and what many would call the Hyper Edition and Royer Pool over in the center of campus. And those four projects together exceeded the bond limit that they had. And so Assembly Hall was delayed, and they used the new field house from 1960 through 71 for basketball. So as I would know Assembly Hall at that time as a young man, it was the house being built for George. George McGinnis, a classmate of mine, along with Steve Downing and Bootsy White and Jerry Memmering and that group, we were the class of 73, while Assembly Hall would have been open for George's junior year. And of course, he had the family tragedy of his father being killed in a construction accident and had to make money for his family. And so that's why he declared hardship. And of course, it came at the same time as a coaching changeover. So much was made about who was going to come in. And the North Carolina State coach was the leading candidate at that time in the public's eyes. And then all of a sudden, after some interviews in Houston, I believe it was, where the NCAA was played that year, Bill Orway came back and announced, we've hired the Army head coach, Bob Knight, who has a career record of 102 wins and 50 losses. He was the number 6 man at Ohio State. He's going to be your new head coach. And wow, everybody all of a sudden is like, who's this? They just, they so much wanted, the North Carolina coach escapes me now. Isn't that awful, Jim? I should remember that. He was a Lawrence Central grad and, had a great reputation at NC State. And so, Knight comes in and the first game we played in Assembly Hall, the regular season was Ball State, but we had a trial game, if you will, before that. It was a exhibition with a touring Australian national team. And that's when we learned that Coach Knight always wanted the north bench. That's where Indiana was to sit. Well, of course, the way the building had been planned, the home locker room was in the southeast corner, what, JD, you'd remember as the visiting team locker room. That originally was built to be the home team. And it had two nice large spaces that were divided. You had a chalkboard prep area, and then you had a separate area for the lockers. Well, they came out onto the court and the two teams crossed because the Aussies were dressing in what has become the home locker room. And that lasted one game. and guess whose locker room got moved from the south end to the north end? Very simply, Indiana home locker, and that's how it started. Ball State was the first game, and we were off and running. We still were in the old Great Quonset hut where Cook Hall's located. That was a one-story Army Quonset hut that had been the temporary offices for Indiana athletics. Football was in the west half, and then we had Bill Orwig as athletic director, Bob Droe, his assistant, Chris Dalsasso did the compliance and the financial, and Frank Anderson was the business manager. Those four men, that was athletics administration. And then the only coaches that were there, we had baseball there with Ernie Andrus and Bob Lawrence. We had three offices for Lou Watson and his staff, Tom Bolyard and Don Luft. And then we had a small library that was a break room and the sports information with a storage closet. And then the east end of the building had a room where the architect from the Eggers Partnership in New York was located. That was his office during all of this 4-year original construction for the athletics complex. And he came back when we started again in '67 building Assembly Hall. And the ticket office had an area there also. So that was all of athletics. And we had to go back and forth. I had to carry a typewriter and then have a 4-wheel cart where I'd push the mimeograph machine and the paper and everything over for the press row, which was located where, as you well know, what would be the Don Fisher press row as we know it now. Those 12 seats or so. We actually had 3 rows.
Yes.
And that was the SID area and the visiting press and the general media that came in. And so there were no seats on the sideline of Assembly Hall. It was wide open. We brought the original bleachers, Jim, from Gladstein Fieldhouse into Assembly Hall, and those were put up at the ends, so they were permanent. Well, excuse me, I take that back. They were pull-out bleachers that were the south wall, and so those old bleachers were, they had to wash them down because the field house, the new field house, was a sawdust floor, and the basketball court was on 18-inch stilts, elevated, and so they had large knockoff mats on the end of the court because players had run off of it. And so then they'd have to knock the sawdust off their shoes before they'd go up and down the basketball court. And so we brought those bleachers in, and then they built some wooden red boxes. And the radio stations, of course, then we had, it would have been the network that was originated through radio television services, Bob Petranoff and Dick Yoakum, those two late gentlemen, and then Max Skirvin. And Max was the play-by-play announcer coming in. He was then at the Alumni Association. So those 3 gentlemen were responsible for the radio network, and then obviously visiting radio. And you can appreciate JD all too well when Iowa would come to town. Holy cow. We had to rebuild the structure because you had WHO, you had KHAK, you had Cedar Rapids, Ron Gonder, and all of that group, and of course Bob Brooks, and so it was a real challenge with those, and so we filled pretty much the bottom level of Assembly Hall those early years, which would be maybe 13,000, 12,000 people. You've got about 5,000 people in each side, and then you'd have about 2,000 to 2,500 on the court level. And that was great. And when I graduated in '73, I had season tickets for 1 year. I bought 2 season tickets. I was a $3 donor to the varsity club. which was that. Yeah, that's where it all started. $3 was all you had to contribute to be a member of the varsity club. And so I had those season tickets for the 74 season. I was in, I think, aisle D, maybe about row 36, somewhere along in there, right on the aisle. It was a great aisle seat. My dad got to come down to every game. I had, at the time, was working at the Terre Haute Tribune as a desk editor. And so on certain Saturdays, I couldn't come down because I had to work the doubleheader. I'd work 6 until 2 to get the afternoon paper out, and then come back at 4 o'clock and do the Sunday paper, 4 to midnight. So, I saw most of the games in 74. And then that summer, I got the ding letter. I got the notice from George Keogh, the ticket manager, that you have not held season tickets long enough. Our student ticket demand has exceeded the available seats. We're taking the back rows of Assembly Hall on both sides and giving them both end bleachers, half of the east side, and then a certain number of rows across the top of the arena. And they also had to get into the balcony. That was really when we first started getting into the balcony for seating purposes. And so they also added on the court, radio came over, as I recall, they came over to the west side. No, I take that back. They stayed on the east side, but we had 4-row and 5-row tip and roll bleachers that we put on either side of the court. And that brought us up to about 17,000, which, as you well know, JD, that's a full house. And we had that situation, for several decades. And it was amazing to me when I would talk with Bill King and Mike Roberts, the ticket office management that so many people would recall for Assembly Hall. They would tell me, well, if we got in, Chuck, to the file to see the wait list, we have as many people on a wait list as we have sitting in the arena. So you're selling out 17,300 seats, and you've got 17,000 plus people on a wait list wanting to get in there. So, I mean, it was an amazing atmosphere, obviously, and just an unbelievable change. I mean, the field house was a lot of fun. It almost had a circus feel to it because of the sawdust floor. And then they had 4 concession trailers, one in each corner, and they had propane outside the building that they brought in. I mean, there were all sorts of changes in the field house for safety purposes after the state fairgrounds explosion in 1963. So you can imagine the idea of bottled gas being used for cooking in the extremes they had to go to for protection. And it actually resulted in that 73 or 63 and 64 period, the end of the Van Arsdales and Jimmy Rail and that group was when the fire marshal came in and said, okay, the measurable exit doors will determine the seating capacity for your building. So from 9,000 seats in the field house, they went down to 3,000 overnight, and actually had a project where they came in with diamond tip saws and cut out walls of the field house in order to put in doors to get back to those 9,000 seats. And so, those are the things that come to mind when you think about the buildings that have been used for basketball in the last 60 years in Bloomington. Now, of course, when started talking about, you were so kind bringing up the TOC, because so many people always used to say, Chuck, what's this deal? You do the PA, and then all of a sudden we see you putting your hands up of 1 or 2 or pointing out to the court or winding the clock. And yeah, I was a TOC because TV did not really get into the commercials in the called timeouts very much in the 70s or I guess maybe about 1980, somewhere along in there. And Jeff Elliott, then the media director for the Big Ten, his assistant, isn't that awful? The name's escaping me now. From the Big Ten Conference, they would come down when we had a televised game by the Hughes Network, TVS, or by NBC, and they'd be the timeout coordinator. And so that kept developing. And then finally the rules got changed and they designated timeouts of, 16, 12, 8, and 4 minute marks in each half. And about 1983, I kind of reached the point that the scorer's bench worked through me. I had the good fortune of Carl Harrington, the Bloor brothers, but I actually go back to Herb Fairfield and Jim Crow, the late Jim Crow, and some other people that worked at the scorer's bench. And they started, the TV would come in and they'd kind of reach out through radio TV. And I'd look down there and here'd be some sophomore with his resume in hand wanting to get hired by the network. And he was the timeout coordinator. And that kind of lit me up a little bit. I'm like, wait a minute, we've got some junior jocko sitting down here and he's going to control the timing of this game and when we call timeouts, because there wasn't, they talked about, sure, there was a timeout, but you never knew what was going to happen with free throws, if a coach called a timeout, things of that nature. And so I just said, okay, you're out of here. And I took it over. So I started wearing 2 headsets. And you talk about having voices in your head. You're doing something. That was me beginning in 1983 or so, and really running all the way until I retired there that last day of January in 2022. So, and I worked with some of the best, Bob Fishman from CBS, Craig.
I had, when I first started, I was still in school, Chuck, but I was working as a production assistant for CBS, and I worked several games with when Fishman was the head guy. Man, that was wild. You're talking about the timeout coordinators and stuff. I remember getting to work some big IU games. The one at Freedom Hall against Florida State stands out. But I got to do a lot of that type of work. That not what you do, but for the network. So I understand exactly what you're talking about. Chuck Crabb is with us in Campbell's Corner. We've got to take a break. Lots more coming up. Plenty of stories. JD's dragging them out, baby. Back with plenty more right after these messages.
Indiana football accomplished what no other team ever has. Big Ten, Rose Bowl, Peach Bowl, and CFP national champions. The Hoosiers have etched their name into the history books as the first 16-0 team in the modern era. A limited edition of only 5,000 commemorative national championship footballs has been released. 3 full panels embossed and stamped with every championship logo and fully licensed. Get your piece of history today at NICOsports.com. That's NICOsports.com.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Dave & Buster's Bloomington is the place to eat, drink, play, and watch. Enjoy half-price games every Sunday through Thursday, a new menu to dig into, and next-level upgrades like private game suites, the high-flying human crane that puts you in the game, our exclusive arena, and more. Only at Dave & Buster's Bloomington, 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Glad to have you along and glad to be with you. And before I forget, man, I really appreciate any and everybody that comes up and introduces himself to me. Last night, several people. I remember Jim Kennedy. I can't remember the father, but little Claire from Valonia. Got to meet her last night and several others, and I really appreciate each and every one of you guys. Chuck Crabb with us in Campbell's corner. JD Campbell got it set up and rolling. JD, take it over, baby.
Chuck, I've got a big question for you about Assembly Hall. And when you look at that era, when that building opened, what were some of the most memorable concerts that went on in Assembly Hall? Because, that doesn't happen. I can't remember. I think the last time, at least in my recent memory, that we had somebody come in and perform was like Bill Burr, the comedian. And I don't remember many concerts. There were a few that were held during Little Five.
Sure.
But give me some of the names, some of the great events.
Well, yeah. I mean, and when Assembly Hall was planned, the idea was it was to be a multi-purpose building. And that was one of the sticking points when the Board of Trustees in 1966 brought the concept back out from the archives about we need to get this building under construction. But it was a time of student activism on the Bloomington campus. And Guy Zaltzman, I'm trying to remember, there's an attorney in Bloomington who was the IUSA president at the time. He wanted to have a very active voice in controlling the scheduling of the building. It wasn't supposed to be seen exclusively as an athletics venue. And the trustees got just a little bit spooked about all of that. And so they got it under construction and it opened. And really, during the 1970s, JD, some of the great artists played there. Elvis played the building twice. The Rolling Stone played the building. I mean, if you can imagine a big star-shaped stage out on the center court of Assembly Hall that had Mick Jagger and Keith Richards and the boys performing, and they actually had some sort of a stage prop that blew up and looked like protective covering used in sexual acts, if you will.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Why, never seen again in that venue. But I mean, any of the great artists. I mean, I remember seeing Neil Diamond there several times. Red Hot Chili Peppers. John Mellencamp played it often. John. Well, this would have been around 2002, maybe. He said, okay, I know there's always been sound problems in Assembly Hall. And that all dated from the first major rock concert that was in there. The group Chicago came in. They were late coming into Bloomington. They didn't do a sound check. And then when they started playing they were at the north end of the court, the north end. the sound went out, hit that big concrete south wall, and reverberated it back. I mean, it echoed. And Assembly Hall, the rigging is we had that big black arch up in the middle. And so it got the reputation of being a difficult building to rig, to bring in sound, to bring in lighting. With Mellencamp, he said, okay, I'm going to put so many speakers in the air that it'll overcome any echo in the building. And it certainly avoided that. I was standing, as I recall, on the south end, on the concrete area where so many people used to sit, the program sellers and the parking attendants. That's where they would sit. And so Mellencamp's sound, I actually felt what felt like pins hitting my face. The sound was that great. And he overcame it. And they had, JD, they must have had almost 80,000 pounds of speakers in the air. It was just an unbelievable situation. But yeah, and any of the great artists of the 70s played that. The Who, all the way back through any of those. But that was before Market Square opened. That's before Freedom Hall became a little more aggressive for concerts in Louisville. Before they had the Riverfront Coliseum in Cincinnati. And so when all of that started coming online, and particularly Market Square in Indianapolis, why then it was built for those types of activities. And people said, okay, through this newfangled sales operation called Ticketmaster, why you can just pick up the phone and call in. And of course, as we well know now, all you do, pick up your cell phone and put in a code, and then there's your ticket, and it shows up on the screen, and you show it in the scanner, and you're in the building. All the changes that have happened there. But the concerts just kind of fell by the wayside. Probably the most novel event we had in kind of that multi-purpose, 3 different years. What would it have been? About 1972, 73, and about 75, we had Ringling Brothers, Barnum, and Bailey Circus play the Assembly Hall. So the 3-ring act was out there in that area. Now, keep in mind, Assembly Hall was actually designed, everybody always talks about those steep side walls. Well, what it was, they wanted the late Bill Orwig, the athletic director, during all the planning for the building, basically, he wanted ice hockey. And so that's an NHL size rink. Now, the dasher boards would be just a little bit troubling with those sidewalls. I don't know how spatially, I never measured it, JD, to see how things would fit in there, whether they would have, space for the benches and the penalty box and the scores booth and the officials at the end of the court. But of course, that was a portable floor we had until 1995, when we put a permanent hardwood floor in Assembly Hall that pretty much is the same court to this day.
Another part of that court that people really remember is the basket standards.
Yeah.
And how particular Coach Knight was about those basket standards. And if you would talk a little bit about, because those again, we don't see those. And I know there's a new documentary coming out on Amazon about the old ABA, where you see similar contraptions, before the Daryl Dawkins break the glass. But I think I remember one time, Coach, I think, had said to you, now, Chuck, we're not going to be changing the basket standards.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
several times. We had what I call the arched baskets. Before the hydraulics and the spring load uprights came into use by BPI and Spalding, we had those because if you go back in the 1950s and look at the arenas of the time, St. John Arena, where Coach Knight played, those were the type They were silver, if I remember the old St. John Arena. They had those, and obviously the fairgrounds in Indianapolis where the Pacers first started out, and they were a dickens to move because we had a ton of pig iron on the end of each basket. We didn't drill into the court to anchor them. We actually had pig iron on there, which was really nothing more than cut up railroad rails. And so
I was wondering what that was, Chuck, because I got there early last night before the game because of the 76 team honoring things, and I was on the north end. I happened to come in the north end, which I usually don't. And I was pretty early, so I'm like, there's nothing to do. And I was just standing around, and I started reading the placard about the goals that we're talking about. And I was reading about that they weren't anchored to the floor. It was pig iron. I'm like, what the hell's pig iron? And I was like, what? It was just funny and it's very ironic that you're talking about this, but yeah. But one of the things that stood out on the placard is that it said that instantly when you would see that on TV, you knew where you were watching.
You knew we're in Assembly Hall.
And
that's right.
That is a fact. I mean, man, when that TV came on, you saw those arch goal standards and the sloping, whatever you call that deal. It was like, bam. It's like a signature, sure. But not to interrupt you. Sorry about that. But it was just ironic that I was reading about that.
Yeah, well, those were the end goals that we used through all the time. We had them through the 2001 season, and during the late 1990s. I mean, I started doing facility management with Harold Morrow, and then Harold got more involved with football, so I took over the facility side kind of on a full-time basis. And I talked to Coach there in the late 90s after Brian Evans' time with us. And I said, Coach, it's getting more difficult to be able to move those. I mean, the difficulty we have, and get all sorts of comments from the TV because they're wanting to put cameras and microphones, and photographers want to put clips up there and put remote control cameras for different perspectives, and said, would you consider changing? And, I got one of these, well, Chuck, with what we've got, my bank boards and baskets have won 3 national championships. Now how many can you say that you've won? And I'm like, Coach, you kind of have me there. I mean, I haven't won a national championship like you have. And he's like, and you understand then that we're not changing the goals, don't you? And I'm like, I fully understand that. And so that was that. So we went through that with Mike Davis's first year of his 6-year tenure with us in 2000 and 2001. And then we changed the goals out the next summer. That was that.
Yeah. And something that I hope people know about you is not only were you heavily involved in the cheerleading part, you won six national championships.
6 national titles, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that a lot of people that I've talked to over the years revered your ability in track and field. And
thank you. Sure.
And what I remember is how big a weekend it was when the Indiana high school state championships would
we're there at Hayes Track.
Yeah. And there are people, it's not a niche, but when you can be a great announcer of track and field, and if you've never worked a track and field event, it is harrowing. And to keep
it's a real challenge, JD.
Yeah, and to keep everything going, and then you went to the Olympics and helped there. So talk about your experience in track and field, and maybe some of the best, because certainly we had a lot of great Olympians and national champions at IU. Yeah. But who are some of your favorite people that you got to experience watching
I go back when I was an undergrad. That was the beginning of Sam Bell's tenure at IU. He and Charlie Baker were the two coaches. Aubrey Dooley was one of the assistants. Phil Henson was one of the early assistants too. And so I took Al Gallo's place announcing track and field. And I did maybe 1 year there in the field house because we had that new tartan floor. So I did it. A track and field announcer, as much as anything, is kind of a ringmaster because you have so many things happening. You have running events, you have throwing, and you have horizontal jumps, the long jump, the triple jump, and then you also have the high jump and the pole vault. And so things get real crazy out there. When I came back to IU full time in '76, I've often said Sam Bell was the first person to greet me at the door in September of '76, and he said, "I've got my announcer back." And so I picked up doing the announcing, and with that, I had a chance to do like 12 to 13 Olympic festivals. People might remember the National Sports Festival they had in Indianapolis in 1982, and that was the year that the Natatorium opened, Carroll Stadium opened, and the soccer complex out on West 16th Street. And so I got tied in by Coach Bell to doing any of the announcing up there, along with a lawyer that came in from Indianapolis who was very active in national and international track and field, the late Bob Hirsch. And so Bob became a very dear friend. And so working around him, I learned that lesson about preparation because he would have all these sheets in front of him and he would talk about, a 5-time national champion. He's been on the U.S. Olympic team and this gold medal and this medal and Carl Lewis, things like that. And so I learned from him, much like so many people talk about, Coach Knight with the idea of preparation. I learned it from those teachers, from Hirsch, from the late Scott Davis, from my good friend Mike Jay, who is now the preeminent track and field announcer in the United States. You do that, and when you say that, people take notice about, wow, we're really seeing a really good field in this track meet right now. I was as much a salesman promoting the individuals in the sport as I was in doing play-by-play. And this was the only time, JD, that I got into doing play-by-play was the track and field. And so I would call the race, and one that I still remember so well is the 5,000 final in Indianapolis in about 1987 or so with Terry Brom and Julius Coyle. Coyle was a great runner for Washington State, and the Coyers, that's a great name from Kenya that has dominated distance running. And so Terry, Brom and Coyle going down the backstretch, and here's Terry Brom. Brom's in the lead for the Hoosiers, and brought him home, and Terry won, NCAA champion. And so that was certainly a favorite moment of mine. I'll always have, but I had 2 Olympics. I worked Los Angeles in '84, where I worked at the main press center, moderating the press conferences as the MC, if you will. And then Phil Henson reached out to many of his friends in 1996 when he was the competition director for the Centennial Games in Atlanta. And so I was the producer for the stadium, the announcers, the video board, the static boards, and the music. Those were all under me. And of course, the PA was interesting because as people are hearing now during the Winter Olympics, they have French, English, and Italian. They have those 3 languages.
Do you do all of those, Chuck?
No habla inglés. So I had to coordinate the English announcer and the French announcer, and we did play-by-play in English, and that was Bob Hirsch and Gary Hill, the longtime publisher of Track and Field News. And so I had a chance to work around all of them and think back to the Mike Powell successes in the long jump, and the Carl Lewis with his sprinting and jumping. Michael, not awful from Baylor. The 200-400 combination there in 96, and just any number of great athletes all the way up till now. Probably the most homer I ever was as announcer, JD, was the year at Geneva in the indoor Big Ten championships. I did the first 6 years there. We had 3 Indiana runners that got out front, and they were, I kind of had my Al Michaels cheer. They're coming toward the finish. It's Indiana 1, 2, and 3. Will they finish first, second, and third? Yes, and I think I kind of ruffled the feathers of a few Big Ten coaches with that, but I was pretty ecstatic about seeing kids perform that I had announced in Gladstein Fieldhouse at Hayes Track, and I was very involved those 18 years that the IHSAA was in Bloomington. It was a real thrill to have that and put it together, and I still, down here in retirement, meet often with Bobby Cox, the longtime commissioner of the IHSAA. He lives about 10 miles from me over in Riverwood around Port Charlotte. And we have a lot of memories with that. And things change. And now the IHSAA has moved the championship back to Indianapolis. And they're looking forward, obviously, to the day when they can get back in Carroll Stadium there on the IU Indianapolis campus and have the state championships there. And that'd be a very fitting location for it in the center of the state with a great sport venue that salutes the accomplishments of the athletes.
The great Chuck Crabb and JD Campbell's corner right now. I've got to get this last break in, guys, and we'll be back to finish up here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Dave & Buster's Bloomington is the place to eat, drink, play, and watch. Enjoy half-price games Sunday through Thursday, plus a new menu and next-level upgrades like private game suites and the high-flying human crane. Only at Dave & Buster's Bloomington on South College Mall Road.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
You're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area? You need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Bored, Bloomington? Dave & Buster's can fix that. Eat and drink your way through our new menu. Play half-price games every Sunday through Thursday. Watch your teams on the big screen and level it all up with the high-flying human crane. Private game suites and more, only at 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, man. What an incredibly fun day. Big thanks to Mike DeCourcy, JD Campbell in Campbell's corner. He pulled in Chuck Crabb, who we're going to have to get back because he could talk for days and days, and you will just sit there like I was and just taking it all in. Trust me, even when I'm not on the screen, I'm listening, and I just love to hear all this stuff. And I know Bob Kravitz would love to hear the part about the hockey, because he's a huge hockey guy, played club hockey at IU, So I can't wait to tell him, hey, go back and listen to this. There was ice hockey intentions in Assembly Hall. That'd be crazy. But go ahead, JD.
Jim or Chuck, you obviously you and I, you more than me, spent plenty of years sitting at the scorers table. And what I want to know is, did you ever get trucked by any player when you were announcing? Do you ever remember anything where a kid went to die for that? Because we have there's no room.
No,
there's no room. I want to know if anybody knocked your drink over, anybody landed in your lap. And now with all the technology that's sitting by you, the replay, and I mean, you know, those of us who sit there many times should have gotten hazard pay.
Yeah, it was a perilous location. I never had anybody land in my lap. Thank God. The new benches that we have, the Daktronics padded benches, pretty well take the blow of everything. But, the interesting thing about them, they have the LED front that everybody sees, all that nice 4-color display and the center scoreboard, and then the advertising panels and various messages that can scroll across. Those LEDs generate a lot of heat. I all but had a blanket on my legs, virtual blanket, if you will, Jim, from the heat coming off of those LEDs. So I never had a problem staying comfortable at that table. The most challenging moment I probably had where my life was in peril would have been some guy named Watford hit a shot,
Hey, I still have the marks. I have an injury on my shin from that. So, yeah.
Here I am sitting at that bench, JD, and as you well remember, seeing Coach Crean come down to the center of the court and meeting John Calipari, and he had that look of disbelief on his face.
Oh, I know.
Distance.
I've got all the pictures.
And then all of a sudden, sitting to my left about 3 seats was athletics director Fred Glass. And all of a sudden, Fred jumps up on top of the daggone table and the padding on the front of the table. And so he's celebrating. And then Christian comes over, and then 2 or 3 of the players join him up on there, and they're walking. And I'm like, I'm going to die with a 6'10" player from Birmingham, Alabama, laying in my lap. I was in fear. And as it turned out, I mean, the rush of the crowd, both from the main bleachers as well as the end bleachers coming out on that court. I mean, it still amazes me, the ESPN commercial where they show what looks like an ant farm being dumped on the court, and just the flood of people coming out and enveloping all of that maple hardwood. I didn't move for about 30 minutes, but all the yahoos that kept getting on top of that scorer's bench and walking, and it didn't have that first model we had, JD, didn't have the best stability for that countertop that had legs that would drop down and lock in place. And so I'm like, okay, I'm either going to die with this collapsing on me, or the table's going to fold back on top of me and pin me to the ground. So we both had a very similar experience. You must have been able to get out a little quicker than I did. It took about 35 minutes for me to get out from behind that scorer's bench.
Well, next time we have you on, you and I can go more into detail. But Jim, thank you for giving us this time this week. And Chuck, thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. A lot of fun to be with you.
Yeah.
I owed this to Jim from 4 years ago when he tried to call me when I retired. He's like, you need to come in and talk with me, Chuck. We've got a lot of things to talk about. Well, I had some house cleaning to do, like about 5 different rooms in the stadium and Assembly Hall to clean out. My time got a little occupied in that transition. My apologies. But if you're ever in Southwest Florida, come visit at FSW or Venice during the fall, and we'll have a great time together.
Looking forward to it. Can't thank you enough. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, JD. It's always fun, man. We'll do it again next week. Can't wait to have you back on, Chuck. We'll talk about the chair. The great story behind the chair. That's all you got to say. Hey, people, I cannot thank each and every one of you enough. Go out, have yourselves a great Tuesday. We're back again tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.